All right, students, solving systems of equations using the Gauss-Jordan elimination requires a lot of arithmetic. And one of the challenges is doing that arithmetic correctly. And so I want to show you here how to do that arithmetic. In Microsoft Excel, we'll let Excel do all the calculations for us. It's pretty straightforward, a little bit straightforward. So here's the system of equations I'm working with. I want to solve x plus 3y equals 5 and 2x plus y equals 0. And so I'm going to start by writing that as the augmented matrix here. Let me get my cursor going there. There's our cursor. And so I'm going to make a column for my x's and then augment that with the other side of the equation there. So I've got a 2 column, 2, 1, and 0. And let's actually kind of clean this up. Let's actually insert a border. If I collect those two, I can insert a border on the right-hand side there. And then that will make it look, actually, let's make that border a little bit darker so it's easier to see. And so then I can add that, do I have a thick, let's see here. Let's do more border settings. Let's make it a thicker line here and put it here on the right-hand side in there so that we get that augmented line in there that we see with our matrix in there, just to keep that straight. Okay, and the goal with augmenting and Gauss-Jordan elimination is, again, we wanted to get a diagonal matrix with ones on the diagonal, zeros everywhere else. And so that's our goal, is to come up with something that looks kind of like this, with ones on the diagonal, zeros everywhere else. And then what we'll find is our x value and our y value here in the last thing. So looking at the matrix that I'm working with, I already have the 1 in the upper right-hand corner. And so what I need to do is to get the 0 below it. And so what I'm going to do is recreate this matrix. I want the first row to stay the same. So I'm going to come down here below it and say, I'm going to keep that 1. I'm going to keep row 1. I want to keep row 1 a 1. And then what I want to do is do a row operation that combines the first and second row to give us a 0. And I see in row 2, I've got a 2. And so I can get rid of that if I just change the sign. If I take -2, multiply it by the row that's in A1, and then add it to, multiply it by the number, the 1 in row 1, and add it to the value in row 2. And that should give me a 0. And I see when I hit the enter key, it does give me the 0. Now what I want to do then is I want to perform that operation all the way across the whole row, not just the first column. I want to do it across the whole row. So I'm just going to drag my formula and it will auto update, and it will do that operation for us. And it will tell us here, see, you'll see if you go into this cell here, I'll click twice in it. It's done -2 times C2, which is the value in the first row, and added it to the 1 that was in the second row. And that gives me the next value there. It turns out to be a -5. And it does that all the way across for us. So it does all those calculations. It fixes that first row. Okay, so I've got the first row here is matching my goal equation there. Actually, let me extend that border down. Actually, I'm just gonna extend that border down a long ways here. More borders. Let's make it thicker so it's easier to see, and just put it here on the right-hand side of that column. Okay. So, and maybe let me label these two. So this is your X column and your Y column. We'll put labels on that as well. So you got your X column, your Y column. Make it even prettier, we'll center those. Your X column, your Y column, and then the other side of the equals to, the solution column over there. All right, so I got the first column all fixed up. Now what I want to do is I want to get a 1 here in that second row, second column. I want to turn the -5 into a 1. And you can always do that by dividing. If I take -5 and divide it by -5, I end up with 1. So that's the next row operation I want to do. I want to take row 2. I want to do the row operation. Let me annotate that here. I want to do, oops. I want to do row 2 divided by 5 and put it back into row 2. And actually, I want it to be -5 in there. And so that's the row operation I want to do. I just need to do it here in Excel. The first row is going to stay the exact same. So I'm going to say that let's keep this equal to that first row again. And then for the second row, I want to take the second row and I want to divide it by -5. Now you have to do this on the first column in order for it to copy across the way you want it to. You have to think about that row operation and enter it here in the first column, and then copy that, drag that formula across, do that formula across there. Oh, it got rid of my vertical line when I did that, but that's okay. But it also created the 1 for me. So it did the row operation. It gave me the 1 there that I wanted right in that one spot, okay? So I've got the diagonal fixed. I got the 0 in the first row and the first column. And the last thing I need to do is to turn this 3 into a 0. And because I have a 1 in right below it, what I can do is I can use that 1. I'm going to swap the sign. I'm going to take, there's a 3 there in that first row. What I want to do is I want to take -3, grab my pencil here again, and do another annotation. I want to do -3 multiplied by row 2, and then add that to what's in row 1. And that's going to become my new row 1. My new row 1. That's pretty messy. Maybe I'll just type it. Let me try typing it here instead. I want to do -3 times row 2 and add it to row 1. Whoops, I put it as an equal sign. I don't want it in there as an equal sign. Oh, it's automatically making it an equal sign. I want it to be text, and it's making it not text. Okay, well, that's what I want to do. I want to take -3 times row 2 and add it to row 1. So row 1 is going to change this time. What I want to do is I want to take -3, multiply it by what's in row 2. So I'm going to click on the 0 and then add that to what's in row 1 there. So I'm going to create that formula there, -3 times cell B9, and then add it to B8. All right. And then the second row is going to stay exactly the same. I'm not going to change the second row this time. So I'm going to type in equals B9 to keep that second row exactly the same. All right, and then highlight and then drag across to travel that thing across. And then I end up with the equation in row reduced echelon form. All right, so doing row commands can help us a lot with that calculation in Excel, so we don't make so many mistakes with our arithmetic. Very useful sort of thing. I know some of the other videos have talked about multiplying and then subtracting. I prefer the option of multiplying by a negative and adding. I find that I personally make fewer arithmetic mistakes when I multiply by a negative and add, but when I start subtracting negatives, I'm more prone to making arithmetic mistakes. So I like to multiply by a negative and then add as opposed to subtracting rows, as it says in some of the other videos. Okay, so that's how to do it with Excel.